The night had been long, but for Mara Lewis, it was finally supposed to end. The soft hum of the coolers echoed through the quiet convenience store, and the smell of coffee grounds lingered in the air like a memory that refused to fade. Outside, the world looked peaceful beneath the fading orange of the setting sun, the kind of peace you only noticed when the rest of your life was noise. Mara wiped down the counter, her hands slow and tired, the ache in her shoulders a familiar companion after a 12-hour shift. The clock on the wall ticked softly, marking the final minutes before she could close up, lock the door, and head home to her small apartment and the silence that waited there. But fate doesn't always wait for a better time. It walks in when you least expect it, wearing boots heavy enough to crush your sense of safety. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of good hearts, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Vibes. It helps stories like this reach more people who still believe the world can be gentle. Mara reached for the register key, ready to shut everything down, when the doorbell chimed. The soft metallic ring sliced through the silence like a warning. 3 men walked in, the kind of men you could recognize trouble from before they even spoke. The tall one in front wore a grin that didn't reach his eyes, his boots thudding against the tile with purpose. Behind him came 2 others, laughing under their breath, their shadows long and sharp under the flickering fluorescent light. Mara's stomach tightened. Something in the air shifted, the way it does before a storm. She managed a weak smile and said they were closed, her voice trembling slightly. But the tall one, the leader, just smirked, his voice low and mocking as he said, "We're not here to buy." The words hit her like a cold wind. One of them leaned on the counter, pretending to look at the candy bars, while the other moved toward the aisle to her right, quietly blocking the way to the back exit. Her pulse quickened. She could hear it, that sharp, racing thud in her ears, louder than the hum of the fridges. She tried to steady her breathing, tried to keep her tone even, but fear made her voice thin. The tall one, whose name tag read Kyle, leaned closer. She could smell alcohol and cheap cigarettes on his breath. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" "Nervous," he said, eyes glinting with cruelty. She didn't answer. He grabbed her by the front of her red shirt and yanked her forward. The sound of tearing fabric echoed across the quiet store, breaking something inside her that no stitch could repair. The other 2 burst out laughing, cruel, sharp laughter that filled every corner of the small shop. "Guess we found some entertainment tonight," one sneered. Mara's hands shook, her heart pounding so hard it hurt. She wanted to scream, to run, to fight, but her body wouldn't move. Her mother's voice echoed faintly in her head, "You never know who walks into your life, Mara. Some to hurt you, some to save you." Her trembling hand reached blindly for something, anything, behind the counter, a broom handle, a bottle, a chance. But before she could find her courage, a sound came from the back of the store. A soft thud, then a heavier one. Footsteps. The men turned, their laughter dying. Mara's breath caught when 3 figures stepped slowly out from between the aisles. The light caught on patches of metal, tattoos, and leather. They moved with calm confidence, boots striking the tile in steady rhythm. The air thickened. The first man to step fully into the light was tall and broad, maybe in his late 40s, with a thick salt and pepper beard and eyes that looked like they'd seen too much of the world. His leather vest bore the unmistakable patch, Hell's Angels. The emblem caught the fluorescent glow, sharp and defiant. On his chest, stitched neatly, were the words RL. CH. Ills. Behind him were 2 others, one bald, his arms lined with faded tattoos, the other younger, wearing sunglasses perched on his head and a quiet smirk on his face. They didn't look like heroes. They looked like trouble of a different kind, the kind that stood between danger and the people who couldn't fight it. The tall biker stopped a few steps away from Kyle, his eyes fixed on the man's hand still gripping Mara's torn shirt. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm, almost gentle, but there was iron beneath it. "You might want to let go of that." Kyle hesitated. For a moment, he tried to puff his chest, trying to look unfazed. "What's it to you, old man?" he said, forcing a laugh that cracked halfway through. The biker didn't flinch. He took one slow step forward, the kind of step that makes every other sound disappear. Kyle's grin faded. His hand loosened. He stepped back. "You boys had your fun," the biker said quietly. "Now you're going to walk out calmly. But thugs rarely know when to stop." Kyle spat on the floor, his voice trembling with false confidence. You think you can scare us? The biker's expression didn't change. He just said, softly, no. And then, the world moved. It wasn't a fight. It was a lesson. In less than 10 seconds, the leader twisted Kyle's arm, turned him off balance, and dropped him to the floor with a dull thud. The second man lunged, but the bald biker intercepted him, shoving him back against the counter so hard the candy bars clattered to the floor. The third froze completely, eyes wide, then bolted for the door. The bell above it rang wildly as he stumbled into the night. The others scrambled after him, their voices fading into the darkness outside. Silence. Mara stood there, trembling, the remnants of her torn shirt clenched in her fist. She could hardly breathe. The tall biker turned toward her, his expression softening as he spoke. You okay, miss? She tried to answer, but the words stuck in her throat. Finally, she nodded, whispering, thank you. He nodded back. Keep your lights on a few more minutes. You're never as alone as you think. Then, without another word, he turned and walked toward the door. The others followed. The sound of their boots echoed one last time against the tile, followed by the chime of the bell as they stepped into the fading sunset. Outside, the motorcycles roared to life, their engines low and powerful, fading into the distance like thunder rolling away from a storm. Mara stood still for a long time. The store was quiet again, but it didn't feel the same. It felt like the air itself had changed, like courage had been left behind in the room, lingering just enough to remind her she wasn't broken. Tears slipped down her cheeks, not from fear, but from something she hadn't felt in a long time, gratitude. She looked out the window, watching the last traces of the sunset disappear behind the rooftops. For the first time in years, she believed again that goodness could appear in the most unexpected ways. Her mother's words came back to her once more, soft and true. Some walk into your life to hurt you. Others walk in to save you. Tonight, 3 strangers in leather had done just that. She locked up, turned off the lights, and stood for a moment beneath the pale street lamp outside. The night was calm again, but she wasn't the same woman who had started it. Somewhere deep inside, she carried the echo of motorcycle engines and the reminder that not all angels have wings. Some have tattoos, leather vests, and a code that says no one gets left alone in the dark. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness, courage, and compassion still walk among us, even in the roughest forms, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Vibes. Your support helps us keep telling stories that restore faith in humanity. And before you go, tell us in the comments, what would you have done if you were in Mara's shoes that night? Because sometimes, the bravest thing we can do is believe that goodness still exists, even when it comes wearing leather and a quiet kind of strength.